Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series on our new product, Experience Builder. My name is Allie Naughton, Client Strategy Manager here at Listrak, and I'll be walking through some high-level Experience Builder function and strategies today, and then I'll be kicking it over to Nick Simon to walk through the tool itself. From an agenda perspective today, we'll be covering what is Experience Builder, some best practices around acquisition, and then we'll go through a live demo really showing you the power of Experience Builder in our tool. Experience Builder is a user-friendly tool that makes it easy for marketers to build, manage, test pop-ups without needing to understand HTML, CSS, or really any coding. It has advanced targeting and personalization options to let you be able to show that pop-up to any consumer one-to-one from a personalization side of the house. It also lets you do rapid content updates. We heard a ton from our clients that they wanted to be able to make quick changes without needing to edit HTML to do so. So we're introducing this tool that makes it super easy to make content changes on the fly and set live in real time so that you can make some updates as you go, whether that's for sales or change an offer. Maybe it's just changing out your image to be more seasonally relevant. Those are the types of things that Experience Builder helps with and that we'll be walking through today. Some other overall benefits of Experience Builder that are worth noting before we hop in. You have the ability to acquire email and phone number, so having a true cross-channel acquisition modal. This helps with strengthening identity resolution. It also helps when you think about positioning incentives cross-channel, whether you want to have the same incentive across channel or potentially even increase that incentive if you get another channel acquired. Some other acquisition opportunities that Experience Builder enables is being able to do more specific experiences based on device. So to the right, you'll see an example of a tap to join pop-up. This is something that we see consistently on mobile, where it brings up the mobile messaging app once you tap that button. This is a great example of an easier way to opt in, but also shows the strength of Experience Builder that you really can change the experience based on different devices and a whole slew of other targeting capabilities that we will certainly go through. You also can update imagery, text, make any of the pre-existing creative that we have in Experience Builder your own. So we have a lot of pre-existing templates that maybe you change the logo out, you change the text, the images, the colors, the fonts to be more brand specific, but makes those updates super easy. You could even do things like adding sticky buttons to your site as well, which allows you to essentially expand on your acquisition opportunities. Finally, we just wanted to put a few quick examples of our best practice acquisition plays. On-site experiences is what we'll be covering today from an experience builder perspective. Your typical entry pop-up, persistent button, exit pop-up, or really any of these in an on-click function. You might think about that on-click function in use cases like adding a button to your nav that you can have people click on in order to pop this modal. Maybe you have in your category pages a block that says sign up for email and SMS today to get a discount. You can click on that and it'll pop this modal. Those are the types of examples that we typically see from an on-site perspective for acquisition. But clearly, acquisition is not limited to that. So we did just want to put a few other best practices here. There are other acquisition forms that are on site typically that we won't really be walking through today from an experience builder perspective, but more so just an understanding of some key use cases of other places to acquire. We see a lot of customers doing this in the footer, when customers create accounts, in checkout, or if the brands have different product registration forms. These are all great places to collect that email and SMS data in order to target those people down the line. The last example is some offsite experiences. So the first two are all about your on-site experience, but you can essentially collect this data anywhere by utilizing things like landing pages, which we did a whole separate webinar series on. So feel free to check that out if you haven't yet. And you can use that in a few other capacities. So two other examples are things like in-store signups. So you might have a QR code in store that lands people maybe on a landing page, or you could land them on your site and target the on-site experiences we'll talk about today in Experience Builder to acquire those users. Same concept goes to direct mailers. We have a lot of clients who will put QR codes in there that can link to acquisition points, whether that's landing page or pop-up experience oriented. All of these are super exciting experiences that we'll walk through today in order to showcase how Experience Builder can help you make some easier pop-up acquisition modals on the fly and make an easy way to test, edit, and set live. I'll pass it to you, Nick.
Thanks, Allie. My name is Nick Simon. I'm the group product manager at Listrak over our content and GXP product lines. So what I want to do today is just do a quick walkthrough of Experience Builder and give you a basic understanding of how to access it, how to build your first pop-up in Experience Builder, and some of the different features and functions that are available today. So the first thing you'll want to do is go to the navigation bar, and underneath content, you'll see Experience Builder. That'll take you to this main management page where you'll be able to see all past experiences, active draft versions, anything in testing, or even older inactive versions. From here, if you want to create an experience, you can go to the Create New Experience button in the upper right. This will open a modal which will give you the option to select Pop-up Experience. Upon selecting this is going to open up Experience Builder. It's going to give you a blank canvas. And so this is where it gives you the option to start building out your first pop-up. So real quick, I'll talk about a few elements on page here. So on the left, you'll notice some steps. These are all different options that you can drag and drop onto the canvas in order to tailor the content, different functionality around targeting and personalization, and even offers. Across the top, you'll notice a place to name your experience. So we'll name this the entry pop-up, as well as a button for test mode, which we'll talk about here in a bit, as well as saving and activating content. At any point in time, you can choose to save your experience in order to just keep that draft going before you need to activate it at the given time. So we'll kind of go through these steps down the flow here. So the first one you'll come across is the trigger event. Trigger is how you determine when to show a pop-up. So in this example, you can choose a few settings between on-page load, so on the initial load of the website page, and how much of a delay in seconds would you want to have. Typically, we recommend best practices to be under 3 seconds, as you don't want to have people sitting on a page waiting to get a pop-up to show. People navigate pages pretty quickly, so if you really want to have higher acquisition rates, you want to keep delay pretty low. Second option here is an exit page trigger. So if someone has an intent to exit, so they're taking their cursor out of the browser to say hit a back button or to close, that will actually trigger that exit pop-up. These are really good from a strategy standpoint to put incentives before they leave or abandon in a cart to try to call to action of like, hey, you can check out today, we'll give you a free shipping offer as an example. The third one here is trigger on button click. So this is where you can build that sticky or persistent button. So if you want to put in, say, a $10 off now call out, you have the option to change, say, fonts. So pick something different here like cabin. You can change the weight, spacing, the font color. You can change the color of, say, the button itself. So change something to more clear. And even adding in things like padding to the content to make it more your own. Choose to say add a radius and pixels here, give more of a rounded button appearance. So as well as the placement of the button. So any of the corners, the side, the top. So if you want to choose a different location to place that button to follow users on different pages, as well as being able to turn on like a close button. So somebody can close the button, remove it from the UI. So if it is, blocking something, or they just don't want to have that showing up anymore, that preference is there as well. The last option here is on scroll. So that scroll event allowing you to choose the scroll to be the trigger. So having that pop-up show based on that scroll trigger. And a more manual option that Ali kind of talked to earlier on click events is having a manual trigger. So you could use this code snippet to tie directly to any element on your site. So when someone engages with, say, an element on the page, like a link or a button or an image, it can then trigger that pop-up as well. So the next step I want to talk about is pop-up steps. So as one of the content options, this is the face of the content that the website visitors are going to see. So as your customers are shopping on the website, what is that pop-up going to appear like? So by clicking on a pop-up step, you'll see that you can name this step. So if you want to keep track of this, let's say step 1 of a 2-step pop-up, You can do that. And then you have some settings under pop-up behavior. So if you want to have the ability to close the pop-up when someone clicks in that overlay space outside of the core content. But the core of this is the design. So you can start from either choosing a template or starting from scratch. Starting from scratch will open the editor directly and give you a blank slate to build anything you want to build. However, a lot of people find using templates more beneficial in order to give you more direction for design and a structure for that content. I do want to highlight animations as well. So there's a number of animations that will occur on that initial step load. So if you want to have more of an animated element like a fade in or a bounce in animation, kind of adds a little more action to the content as it appears to get people's attention. You can do that from here as well. So I'm going into the use a template. This is going to open up a template picker. It's going to present a bunch of options for different themes. And so from here, you can preview both desktop or mobile device views to see what they may look like. There is also options to filter by different categories of options, things like email acquisition or tap to join. We'll actually pick this Tweed template for now. So again, you'll be able to see what the creative looks like on these different versions of device type, and then be able to toggle through different creative categories here. So you can see an example of what a basic email acquisition step would look like versus an SMS one, or versus, say, a mobile specific tap to join. So for this example, we're going to stick with email acquisition and we'll select that. So upon picking that template, it's going to open the actual content editor. Inside of the editor, you're going to have full control to drag and drop components, edit settings, mess with the configuration of design, swap out images, all the personalization control that you would want. Basic functionality allows you to, say, drag an element into the canvas at anywhere, and you'll see where the positioning is going to place that. Or you can select an element that's already here and see the settings on the left. Things like text-based elements are going to give you a lot of text control, styling, placement, color options. Whereas things like images are going to give you the ability to both replace images, choose from our image library. You can paste in a URL if you have an external source for that image already. You can do things like go into apply effects, and this will have a number of different creative options. Most commonly, people will use things like resizing or even cropping. So if you want to, say, crop an image to more of a precise fit for different variations, you can do that and then apply that creative. I'm going to back out of here for now. And again, more options around things like padding and spacing for all of these. Inside of the editor itself, you'll notice in the top left, there's a toggle for desktop and mobile. So by doing this, you'll actually see different variations of both what will be rendered for the desktop user versus the mobile user. Something to note here that will catch your eye is that this image is kind of blurred out and the layout looks a little weird. What's actually happening here is a control on all the content elements where you can choose to hide it based off device types. So you can see in this case, this image has been tagged to hide for mobile. And so you can then toggle this preview to be able to see what it would truly render like on mobile versus desktop. Again, this is just a simple way to highlight the power of targeting desktop and mobile users uniquely and some of that personalization content. From here, I'm just going to hit apply and say we're happy with this design for now. And that'll be our first step. So upon creation, it'll render a thumbnail. So visually, as you build out a pop-up here, you'll be able to see what it looks like as you go. So one other thing I want to start to touch on is coupons. So a coupon step allows you to select an existing coupon pool that's already set up in the Listrak account. And this will give you a number of attributes that you can personalize. So you can set personalized values for all of these and it'll generate a tag. So if I want to say the title of this was Welcome $10 off, and I'm going to say this is just title, right? It will give you a personalization tag that you can then copy and use in any content steps post this coupon step. The reason this is available is so if you want to have a really robust set of steps, and we'll talk a bit more about that in conditional splits, you can have a single point of the value for, say, the coupon code and replicate that as a personalization tag. We'll dynamically fill in that code for you in the content in the other steps. So if you want to come back and make an edit to this in the future, you can just update the coupon step and all of your content steps will inherently get those changes because of that personalization tag. For now, I'm going to close out of this without adding any more to it, and I will just copy this code snippet so we can use it here in a bit. So another item in here to talk about briefly is random splits. So this is a very simplistic, purely random pathing tool. So you can do things like 50-50 splits. You can add additional paths, define all of these percentages individually, as long as they total 100. And this allows you the ability to set up different paths with a truly random algorithm to be able to test different aspects of, say, creative, messaging, offers, and be able to see on the back end the analytics from this of which path is performing better and look at key metrics that will help it inform more refined strategies in the future. Something to note is that any of these items that you add to the canvas, you can delete. It will prompt you so that you're not accidentally removing anything. And then the last one I'll talk about here is conditional splits. So real quick, we'll show a real base example, but a conditional split basically brings the power of targeting to a single step to be able to split off that personalized experience. So if you go into add conditions, you can see we have a yes path. And if we want to add a second path, you can do that as well. So the first path is where you can say, in this example, say something simple. Device type is desktop. And then path two, we want to say that device type is mobile. So if you really want to truly split the user base on this pop-up by device, you can do that in this very two-step example here. You can name this as well as a device split. And you could even rename these paths however you want. So say this was desktop. From here, you could then choose to put different content in each one of these. What I'll do here is for speed of content, I'll just go to this first step and I will duplicate this. This is a very common practice that many people will do is once you've established that first step and you have your branding worked out, your messaging, the creative, it's very easy to just replicate that step. And now you can just drag it down into your other paths. And so I'll go in to actually edit this real quick. So this is going to be going to desktop and say we'll treat this as a confirmation step. So I'll delete out the form and actually replace this with that code that I copied earlier. We'll drop this font size. Change some quick text here. Remove some of these other elements that we don't need. And add a little spacing. So now we have a very simple confirmation and that personalization tag. So now that when a coupon is assigned to the person after they submit that first email step, that code will dynamically populate into this one. So I'll name this confirmation. Now, if we wanted to replicate this across different steps, again, you could just clone this and place them. And this, again, is just a simple version of a device split. There's a lot more power here, and I'll go back into this real quick. And so say you wanted to stack a number of rules here. So you could say, I want it not just by device, but say I want it based off subscription channel as well. So if they came here because they're on desktop and they're not already an email subscriber, we want to send them down this path. Similarly, we could say that they came here on mobile, and we also know that they're not, say, an SMS subscriber. So in this scenario, when we apply this, we're now creating an option to put content uniquely to the desktop device and targeting people who haven't opted into our email. And the second one being more specifically, maybe a tap to join message to incentivize an SMS opt-in. That is also only going to be shown on mobile. So there's lots of different ways to go about this, but there's a lot of power here to stack and combine rules and splitting the personalization for these paths. All of these will then come back together to a single step as well. So if you want to have, say, a second step for SMS collection across these and then a shared confirmation, that's an option as well. So from here, if we're happy with the pop-up that we've created, we have our two steps, we have our offer in place, and we wanted to, say, test this on our site. We have a very simple testing tool, so you can go click on Start Test Mode. What this is doing is publishing all of this content to the cloud and putting it in a position where we can actually send it to your site to test it on a live condition. So the reason we do this is that in-app previews are great for knowing what things generally look like, but there's always the placement, Is the colors right? Is the branding working correctly? Is there any kind of technical overlap that could exist? And really, you just want to test properly an exact scenario of what this will look like when it's truly activated. And that's what test mode does for us. There's two options here. There's design and test configuration. Design allows you to view the content directly on the site without needing to meet any targeting criteria or rules. Whereas test configuration means you need to go through and match any targeting criteria. So you need to be, say, on the right page, the right delay amount of time, if it's a scroll event, actually do the scroll, things like that. For today's demo, we're just going to do a design so we can show that. So clicking on preview on site will open a new tab directly to your website and launch the pop-up. If you're on mobile, you can take your phone and scan the QR code and we'll have that same effect. It'll open your mobile browser and trigger that pop-up so you can see how it's rendering on an actual physical mobile device. So we'll click on that preview. It's going to open up our demo website here and it's going to trigger that pop-up. So you can see that 10% yellow pop-up that we had created. Now this is a fully live pop-up, so you can submit the form, you can click on the buttons, you can close it. It's the full live active version of the content, but it's obscured and locked in a test version that only you can see. So no one actively navigating the website as a customer would be able to see this at any point in time. This really gives you confidence in knowing exactly what it's going to look like and how it's going to render on your site. So if you're happy with everything that you've seen while testing and everything is good to go from test mode, and you're ready to activate this pop-up, it's as simple as going to activate and then just confirm that you want to activate this. This will now publish this fully live. It'll take you back to the management page of Experience Builder, and you'll be able to see that it's in a publishing state. Just a few seconds later, you'll go into a active version, and that active status will let you know that this pop-up is live. And then you can navigate your site like normal and actually see that pop-up firing if your criteria has been met. So now that your pop-up is active, the next critical phase will be tracking performance. So I just want to highlight quickly where analytics is accessed. And so the first place you'll notice is that there's a View Analytics button at the top of the page. This will take you to the Overviews dashboard. This will give you insight into all of your experiences that have been active and running during that time period you select. So you can see comparable performance between, say, your entry and exit pop-up, or even data between performance of, say, desktop versus mobile. This will give you a lot of insight as you see over time, trends, metrics around performance, and even some benchmarking between different experiences. The other place is going to an individual experience like the one we just created and going to the actions menu to say view report. This gives you the ability to see just your analytics for that single experience. So if you want to see how well is it performing, how many submissions you're getting, any revenue or conversions data that is attributed to it, and then even individual step performance. So say you're doing many steps with email and SMS and different variations, say in a conditional or a random split, you'll be able to see the individual metric performance of those steps as well. So this is all really good places to get insights to help inform strategic decisions to change or alter content over time. So real quick, we'll jump into the overview dashboard to kind of show you what that looks like. So from clicking that View Analytics button, it takes you to this overview dashboard. So again, this is where you can see all of your experiences active. So in this example, we have 3 active, along with the metrics around experiences triggered, content impressions, your submissions, really informative, interactive elements. We won't go into complete depth here in terms of analytics. We have a completely dedicated webinar for this, so keep a lookout for that. But I just want to give you insight in terms of where you can go and have confidence to know you'll be able to get things like individual email and SMS submissions, total metrics, interactive data, revenue, and attribution data. So all of that can be found in these dashboards. And that's going to conclude our demo. Hopefully you found a lot of value in that. There's still a lot more for us to show in some upcoming webinars, but I'll hand it back to you, Allie.
Thanks, Nick. And thanks everyone for joining us today for the first webinar in our Experience Builder series. Stay tuned for our other webinars coming up. And if you have any questions about activating or enabling Experience Builder in your account, feel free to talk to your account manager. Hope you guys have a great day.